Well, here I am. I've got Bunjie here, and what I'm going to do now is I am going to replace this scope that came with my Excalibur Axiom that goes with that crossbow. It's served me well since 2010. I'm going to replace it with the Excalibur Vari-Zone Scope. I'm going to sight it in after I do this, of course, and spend some time with the crossbow today to make sure that I've got this new scope sighted in. The only reason that I am changing this scope out is because this top adjustment screw, when I adjust it, it doesn't click. I can feel it, but I can't hear it click. The side one clicks fine. This one hopefully will click, 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 click when you go up half an inch, down half an inch, whatever. I want to make sure that that's one of the reasons I decided I would change it out. Other than that, I was always happy with that scope. They're both the same level of magnification. I don't see any significant difference. I don't think there's any difference with that. This one is for all crossbows shooting 250 feet to 350 feet per second. Now, I'm not affiliated with Excalibur. I love this Axiom, and I would not trade it for the world. Every time I see the new crossbows, they've advanced so much. I've had this since 2010, and they've advanced so much. Every year I look at the new models and I think, geez, I'm going to get another crossbow. Maybe I should buy a new one. But I love this thing. It has just done everything I've asked of it. I cannot say enough about it. So I love the Excalibur. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I can only tell you what I've used, and I have almost no experience with any other brand. I've never hunted with another brand. Other people do, and they love them. So that's more power to them. I think you should try out, and whatever works for you, and that's all that matters. I just stress two things. Number one, you got to have absolute confidence that when you pull the trigger, that arrow is going to go where you expect it to go. Number one. Number two, the other thing I want to point out is some of these guys, I remember a few years ago looking at crossbows, and the brands would suggest that you sight it in at 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, whatever, get it sighted in, but the reticles wouldn't line up with exact yards, with 10, 20, 30 yards. They would line up with like 10 yards, 18 yards, 26 yards. That doesn't do me any good. And I suggest, and some of them were actually suggesting, well, print out your yardages and tape it to the side of your crossbow. Why on earth would I want to sit and refer to a guide on the side of my crossbow stock before I pull the trigger? I ain't got time to do that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
And I urge you, if you have one of those crossbows, either buy a new scope that allows you to get around that problem, like a Vari-Zone or some other brand, some other model, or get rid of your crossbow and get one where it does shoot exactly 10, 20, 30 yards on those reticles. That way I know I can stay 10 yards. If the deer's 15 yards out, I'm just going to put it between the 10 and the 20 yard reticle, and bang, I'm going to get a dead on shot on that deer, exactly where I want to go. And without that kind of confidence, without that level of accuracy, you're cutting yourself short. That's the end of my spiel on that. Let's go put this new scope on here and start playing around with this crossbow. Okay, the first step is what we're going to do in order to take this bad boy off of here, the scope off of here. I have all my tools, everything that I have for my crossbow, I have in this nice big old piece of Tupperware or whatever it is that I got from Walmart for like $4. You can't beat Walmart even for hunting supplies. There are so many things at Walmart that you can get cheap and you can really, that are handy. A big old box like this, I carry my stringer in here, spare broadheads, wrenches, pliers, my knock, old knocks and new knocks, and my scales, my arrow spinner, old crossbow stock accessories, everything I keep right in here, and it's one big bin that holds everything, and I got it all in one spot. Of course, the downside of it is that you're frequently having to fish through it in order to find the stuff, but it's still pretty handy, and it's a lot handier than what I used to use, which would have stuff spread all over the place and you never find what you needed. Another little tip, I carry everything in Ziploc bags. Ziploc bags are like the greatest organizational tool that there is, I swear. I put everything in Ziploc bags. You can see exactly what's in here. I know my rail lube, my wrenches are in here, my serving wax, the screwdriver I use for the scope, everything. So I'm going to start by, we're going to get the proper wrench out here. That big bin I leave that bin in my car when I'm hunting. I don't actually carry it in the woods or anything like that, of course, but I'll leave it right in the bin, or right in the car, and I leave it in there. You can drive around with it in there all winter, as long as you don't worry about your rail lube. I don't know if that freezes or not. I'm sure it would at some temperature, but that's like the only thing in there that's liquid. But everything I just leave in there and drive it around. That way I got it in case I need it, in case I need to do something with it. It sticks, a little sticky. All right, so we won't lose any pieces here. We're going to go stick the next one on, the new scope. What we're going to do is we're going to pull that out of the old box here. I've already got it out and we've already looked it over. There are instructions that came with my Vari-Zone. I will take a second to look those over. It's funny, it says make sure that the crossbow is not cocked. I don't know who the guy is that would put a scope on it while it was cocked. Make sure you put an arrow in it too, that'd be real good. But essentially you just wanted, the key thing here is to make sure you got it on the right way, which you can make sure of by looking through it. And if you look through it and it looks right, then that's the way it goes. I'm going to mount it as far forward as I can. What I recommend you do when you mount a scope, there's only a few little tricks to it. Number one is to get it to right. You don't want it cockeyed. You got to get it right straight up and down, which I'm going to do. I know how to do that simply by mounting this. This will be all the way to the right. This will be sticking straight up. And then you look through it and make sure that the reticles line up with the limbs. If you're off this way with your crossbow, I've read where that's like the number one basis for inaccuracy. The number one problem people have is they get cantered a little bit. The other thing to make sure of with your scope is you want to make sure that it's far enough forward or backwards so that you don't get a problem with your visibility. To do that, what you're going to do is just carefully hold it up there, look through it, and then pull it toward you. See, that's too close for me because it's hard I have to pull my head back to get a nice field of vision in it. It looks like this one can go. Yeah, I still like it all the way forward because I can grip that thing nice and tight. And I'm going to put it all the way forward as I did on the other one. For my crossbow, I also have an extension on the stock here. I'll show you that. Basically, we got an extension on it. And that extension gives me an extra 2 inches or 1.5 inches right here on the back because I'm a big guy and I got long arms. And if you've got the crossbow scope too close to your face, then when it's too close to your face, you're going to have problems with visibility. It starts to get, it's hard to get a good view through the target. So in order to fix that, what we do, very simple, we just push it all the way forward for me. And I like it like that. Just so that the scope itself does not, you don't want that ring to be affected by the mounting bracket for the scope, and I don't think it will. I think we should be fine. So now the only other key is to make sure it's flat, and then I will adjust it, and then I'll cramp her down. We're going to adjust her a little bit, look through it. Just a hair. Okay, we'll go back just a hair. Nope. It's amazing how little it takes to adjust it. But I'm happy with that. I'm going to put the clamps down. Got all my little screws right there in my baggie. Nice and handy. Don't lose anything. We're just going to tighten that back down. Stuff like this really gets you excited for the upcoming season, though. Here we are. It's a little bit colder today, a little bit cooler. Got to wear long sleeves for a change. That hot summer weather's, we've had a little bit of on and off weather, but that hot summer weather's finally leaving us, I think. We're finally over that. And now we can focus on some of the leaves starting to change. I picked the last of my apples that grew. I was pretty excited about that. We finally, this first year, I actually had apples off the trees that I planted. And before I tighten that down, we'll make sure she's good. If I pull up on a deer right there, I'm going to feel pretty comfortable. I'm going to feel muy confident, as I would like to say. So we're just going to tighten this down right now and try and tighten them evenly, one and then the other, and don't ratchet them down until we really feel like we're there. You don't want to over tighten them. It's just snug enough so they're not going to move. You don't want this bad boy moving on you later on, but you don't want to tighten it up to the point where you're affecting your reticle here, you know, crimping the scope or something like that. That wouldn't be good. So just going to tighten it up a little bit. To where I feel confident. I just tighten each one a little bit, work my way around, and then when I feel like they're really getting tight, then I'll stop. And we should be all set here. One more on this guy. There we go. And I think we should be all set. Then, you know, it's not sighted in, so I can move it now. You know, see if it moves a little bit. If it's moving, that's obviously a rope. I'll go sight my crossbow in. That's the next step. We'll go from there.